Hi guys, my name is Chef Gabby, and today I want to teach you guys how to make some creme brulee. So what you're going to need for this recipe is a nice medium saucepan, one mixing bowl. You're going to need a whisk and a spatula, and just a nice strainer like this. What I'm going to do is put whole milk and heavy cream in my saucepan, and then half of the other amount of my heavy cream in the recipe in a bowl with my egg yolks. And I have 200 grams of sugar in this recipe, and I'm gonna put half in with my milk and cream. This is actually gonna prevent the milk and cream from burning. And then I'm gonna put the rest of it in with the egg yolks. Now I'm gonna whisk my egg yolks and cream together and just kind of emulsify them, break up those egg yolks so they're not gross. Because you know, we want everything to be nice and liquid. And this is really the only time we're gonna use this whisk in this recipe. You're gonna see later, we're gonna switch to the spatula just so we don't create bubbles. Whisks actually add air to things, and we don't want too much air in this recipe. So after I've emulsified these egg yolks in here, I am going to set this aside, and I'm just gonna put my milk and cream and that little bit of sugar on the stove. I also recommend doing just a little pinch of salt in your egg yolks. That's gonna kind of round all the flavors out and bring everything together. So just to elevate the flavor of our creme brulee a little bit, I'm gonna put 2 vanilla beans in it. So I'm just gonna slit this guy right down the middle. Usually I use a smaller knife for this, but I've only got one right now. Vanilla beans, when they're fresh, are really nice and soft. When they get a little dry and stiff, they can get a little harder to work with. So I'm just gonna take this, and I'm actually gonna take the lovely vanilla beans. They're right in the center of the bean pod. We're just gonna slice this down right into our bowl, into our eggs. The eggs have a nice fat content, and you always wanna flavor the fat of your recipe. Look at that, oh my gosh, so beautiful. I wish you guys could smell this right now. It smells beautiful and floral and lovely. And one thing I like to do is after I scrape the pods out, I'm actually gonna put the vanilla bean pod into my recipe so that it continues to flavor even after I've scraped it out. Boop. So now I've brought my milk and cream and that little bit of sugar up to what's called a scald. That's when just barely the edges of the pan start to bubble, just a little bit. So now I'm gonna switch to a spatula, and the reason we're doing this is we don't want to add any air or bubbles into our creme brulee base because that's not gonna be pretty. So I'm gonna switch to the spatula and slowly pour in my cream. I would say start with just a little bit and emulsify that because you don't wanna cook your eggs. We just wanna heat them up. We're gonna go nice and slow. It's all gonna be okay. It's all gonna work out. It's gonna be fine. The reason we're gonna do this is we wanna warm up the eggs and actually kind of change the proteins only slightly so we get a beautiful custard, but we don't wanna cook them yet, not until they go into the oven. So now that's all nice and emulsified together. It looks beautiful. Now we're gonna take this and we're actually going to strain it into another bowl. So this is definitely the step that's gonna take your creme brulee from just a regular, I made it at home, to something that's absolutely what you would get in a restaurant. So I'll actually show you guys what this looks like after it's been strained. I like to really scrape my bowl. So after I strain this, some of those vanilla bean pods are in there. I'll just put it back in the liquid, try to get that back in there. I don't want to waste that. But as you can see all those weird, like eggy proteins? Ew. This is what's known as our creme brulee base. And this base is actually gonna be good for about a week in the fridge. You can, at this point, take this, put it in a Tupperware container and just put it in your fridge and bake it off later if you'd like. As I pour, I'm gonna stir slightly just so that vanilla bean doesn't settle all to the bottom so you don't get some creme brulees that are just egg and some creme brulees that have all the vanilla bean. And you're really gonna wanna go slow. No hurry, no rush. Now you can see some of these have bubbles on the top. I'm gonna teach you an awesome trick to get rid of those bubbles. Just gonna go nice and slow and steady. Remember, you've got this. It's all about patience. All right. Actually, those look pretty even. So I'm pretty proud of myself for that. So I'm gonna go grab the torch that we're gonna use to brulee at the end, and I'm gonna show you how to get rid of these bubbles really quickly. So operating your torch is really easy. We're just gonna turn it all the way on until you hear some of that gas, and then it's on. Now, you don't wanna cook the eggs, So you're gonna be really careful, but you're just gonna hold it a little bit, and look at that, popped all the bubbles. Now I would say these guys are ready to go into the oven. I've got my oven at about 320 degrees Fahrenheit. You might want to adjust that depending on the elevation. Because we're at a higher elevation, I am going to be definitely checking these about halfway through because water tends to boil at a lower temperature up here. So we're going to make sure that our water doesn't boil completely off. We want these to cook very evenly, and so we're going to cook them in what's called a bain-marie, which is just a water bath. So I'm just going to pour some water in here. You don't want hot water because we don't want to start cooking the edges. And I'm gonna want the water to go up about halfway to my dish. And that's gonna ensure nice and even cooking. So I'm gonna go get some more water, fill this up, and then we'll get it right in the oven. All right, now that my oven is at temp, I'm actually gonna open it to make it easier for myself. And then I'm gonna walk slowly and carefully over to the oven with these guys. We really don't wanna get any water into the creme brulee. So these guys have been in the oven for just over 10 minutes. I'm gonna check them right now. And just by tapping the edge and seeing how they jiggle. Now that isn't liquid in the same way like water would be, but it's still not quite set. So I'll definitely show you what it looks like when they are. We're looking pretty good on our bain-marie. The water hasn't boiled off, so I think we're still at a really nice place. So I'm gonna close that oven door and put about 5 more minutes on my timer and then check them in 5. All right, guys, so these are looking pretty perfect. When I tap them, they are set and just jiggling very slightly. So I'm gonna really carefully take these out of the oven. All right, and now this comes the hard part. I recommend using some gloves because this will help if you have sensitive hands, or you can use a hot pad, but you might stab your creme brulee, so just be careful. And we're gonna get these right from the pan, right onto the cooling rack. Oh, they look so good, guys. Yum. Nice and set, just wobbly.